Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Frametric podcast. Today's episode is called 2026, the Year of Artificial Specialist Intelligence. And before we go any further, let's clear something up. When we say ASI, we are not talking about superintelligence. We are not predicting the singularity. We mean something far more useful today: artificial specialist intelligence. A system that does one critical job exceptionally well, works with your actual data, fits inside real workflows, and produces answers you can trust enough to act on. That is where 2026 is heading, and it's about time. The chatbot phase was the warm-up. The first wave of AI gave us universal access. Ask anything, get an answer. Sometimes brilliant, often impressive. Then reality showed up. The same questions keep surfacing in organizations. Where did that come from? Is it based on our data or the internet? What's missing? If it's wrong, who owns it? Those questions are not a sign AI is failing. They are a sign that organizations run on trust, not just cleverness. Trust does not come from confident language. It comes from evidence, transparency, and accountability. Why specialists beat generalists? General AI can talk about almost anything, useful for plenty of tasks. But most organizations do not fail because they lack ideas or words. They fail because important decisions get made using data that is incomplete, inconsistent, or out of date. People are not short of answers. They are short of decision-grade answers. That's where specialists win. A specialist has a defined job and clear boundaries. Instead of ask me anything, it behaves more like this. Here is the decision being supported. Here is the data used. Here is the evidence. Here is what would change the conclusion. Here is what to check next. That is when AI stops being a novelty and becomes something a team relies on. The direction of travel is clear. The serious conversation has shifted. Less focus on one model doing everything, more focus on connecting models to proprietary data and building the parts that make it usable in the real world: orchestration, integration, safety, and data governance. Different people describe it differently, but the direction is the same. Specialists, not generalists. What artificial specialist intelligence looks like. A useful specialist can answer 5 questions without hand-waving. What decision is this supporting? What data did it use? What assumptions did it make? What validation checks did it run? What would change this answer? That is the difference between an answer that sounds right and an answer a team can stand behind. This is why we keep coming back to one simple idea. Decisions need investigation, not just answers. How to build your first specialist without boiling the ocean. The fastest path is not to AI everything. It is to pick one recurring decision and do it properly. Start with something you already do weekly or monthly, where speed and clarity would actually matter. Then define what good output looks like. A strong specialist does not just give the conclusion. It shows the reasoning a human would normally spend hours chasing down. The key numbers, the assumptions, the best next checks, and the evidence trail. Once that works for one decision, it becomes repeatable. That is when AI stops being a pilot and starts becoming an operating capability. Why early AI rollouts disappoint. When AI disappoints in business settings, it is rarely because the model cannot write or reason. The problems are usually simpler. The scope is too broad, so it becomes a chatbot nobody trusts for anything important. There are multiple versions of the truth, so every answer turns into a definitions debate. There is no evidence trail, so nobody acts or they act blindly. And over time, things drift quietly. Schemas change, refresh cycles change, behavior changes, but confidence stays high while accuracy drops. That is schema drift compounding into silent failure. And that last one is the real risk. Not that AI gets things wrong, but that it is wrong convincingly. The real advantage is not answers, it is trust. Answers are getting cheaper every month. Trust is not. Trust requires clear metric definitions, reliable inputs, visible assumptions, and an audit trail. That is why 2026 feels like the moment specialists become the default approach. Not because it is a new label, but because it matches how organizations actually work, real data, real constraints, real accountability. A simple starting point. Pick one decision your team makes every week. Build a specialist that supports it with evidence, reasoning, and a clear investigation path. Do that once, properly, and the specialist era stops sounding like hype and starts looking like the obvious next step. And the summary is simple. Specialists beat generalists for decision-grade answers. Trust comes from evidence, not confident language. The fastest path to value is vertical focus and governed meaning. And AI should show it's working, not just conclusions. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening to the Frametric podcast. If you found this useful, follow the show. And feel free to share it with someone who's trying to make AI useful in the real world, where trust is the thing that matters.